Sayatam Vayaritarataschati Swavigyaswara Tinne Brahma Vidaya Adikavayi Mujantija Suraya Tejo Varimrida Jata Vinimajo Jatra Trisagumasya
Satyam Param Dhimahi.
Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
O all-pervading personality of Godhead.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universe.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he's independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
And he's independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahmaji.
The original living being.
The original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Only because of him do the material universes.
Temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature.
Temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
Appear factual, although they are unreal.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna.
Who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode.
Who is eternally existent in the transcendental
Which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
Which is forever free from the illusory representation.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaitravudra.
Dharma projita kaitavutra.
Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Paramo nirmatsaranam satam.
Vedyam vastavam atravastu.
Vedyam vastavam atravastu.
Shivadam tapo trayam mulanam.
Shivadam tapo trayam mulanam.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite.
Kim va parer ishvaraha.
Kim va parer ishvaraha.
Sadyo hridi avarudyate tra.
Sadyo rudya varudya titra.
Kriti bihi susursabhistakshanai.
Completely
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially
motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth.
This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth.
Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
Which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold miseries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity.
Is sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam.
As one who is attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam.
By this culture of knowledge.
By this culture of knowledge.
The Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
The Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam.
Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam.
Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam.
Pipata Bhagavatam rasam alayam.
Pipata Bhagavatam rasam alayam.
Muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavakaha.
Muhur ahoraska.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
The mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures.
The mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all.
Including liberated souls.
Including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Shravana Kirtana.
Punya Shravanam Kirtanam.
Dohi Abhadrani.
Vidyantos Abhadrani.
Vidunati Sritsatam.
Vidunati Sritsatam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures.
to hear about Krishna from the Vedic
or
literature,
to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad
is it self-righteous activity.
Gita, is self-righteous act.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about
Lord
Krishna,
Krishna is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna dwelling in everyone's
acts
heart,
as a best-wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and it purifies the body constantly engaged in hearing.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta praisha bhadrishu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
nityam bhagavata seva
bhagavati uttama sloke
bhagavati uttama
bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
bhakti bhavati naistiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
And this way devotee naturally develops dharma and transcendental knowledge.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam,
and from the devotees,
from the
he
devotees,
becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in devotional service to the Lord.
Tatarajastamo bhava
Dharajastamo bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
kamalobhadayascha
cheta etara navidam
Chaitanya
stitvam sattve prasidati.
Prasidati.
By development of devotional service,
By devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes free from more passion.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
And this material lust is average and diminished.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam prasanna manas
Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha
Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata
Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana
Mukta Sanghasya Jayate.
Mukta Sanghasya Jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped
the
away,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure
becomes
goodness,
enlivened by devotional service,
and becomes enlivened by devotional
and
service,
understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vijate Hridaya Grantis
Vedate Udayagrantis,
Siddhyante Sarvasansaya
Siddhyante Sarvasamshaya,
Shyante Chasya Karmani
Shyante Chasya Karma,
Drishta Evatmanisvare.
Manishvara.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
Becomes the stage of samsara.
understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality of Godhead.
And it's the Supreme Absolute True Personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness,
can one understand the science of Krishna.
one understands the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, verse number 35. Api me Bhagavan Pitra Krishna Pandu Sutta Priya
Krishna Pandu Sutta Priya
Paitre Svaseya Pityartham
Paitre Svasena Prityartham
Tadgotrasyata Pāṇḍavas.
Tagotrasya Tapandava.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is very dear to the sons of King Pandu, has accepted me as one of those relatives just to please his great cousins and brothers. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. A pure and exclusive devotee of the Lord serves his family interest more dexterously than others. Dexterously means more expertly. Who are attached to illusory family affairs. Generally, people are attached to family matters, and the whole economic impetus of human society is moving under the influence of family affection. That's called Marshall's Law of Economics. Marshall was a British economist, and he said people work hard when they're married, and they want to have washing machines and cars and credit cards and new rugs and new house and this thing and that. So they work really hard. If they're not married, they're not so determined to work so hard. Such deluded persons have no information that one can render better service to the family by becoming a devotee of the Lord. This is something nobody understands. The Lord gives special protection to the family members and descendants of a devotee, even though such members are themselves not devotees. So if you really want to help your family members who are still eating a little meat and sometimes maybe smoking biddies or even marijuana, and engaged in mundane life, well, become a devotee. Even though they're not devotees, they'll be saved because you become a pure devotee. Maharaj Prahlada was a great devotee of the Lord, but his father, Hiranyakashipu, was the great atheist and declared enemy of the Lord. But despite all this, Hiranyakashipu was awarded salvation due to being the father of Mahārāja Parīkṣit. The Lord is so kind that he gives all protection to the family members of his devotee. And thus the devotee has no need to bother about his family members, even if one leaves such family members aside to discharge devotional service. Maharaj Yudhishthira and his brothers were the sons of Kunti, the paternal aunt of Lord Kṛṣṇa. And Mahārāja Parīkṣit admits the patronage of Lord Kṛṣṇa because of his being the only grandson of the great Pāṇḍavas. That's a lot of humility on his part. So when Lord Chaitanya, he got married twice. His first wife died very young, and then his mother insisted they get married again, so he married another wife. Both were eternal consorts of the Lord. And then, because his students, he had a whole bunch of students, they criticized him because they saw him one day chanting Gopi, Gopi, Gopi. And they said, "Why are you chanting Gopi, Gopi, Gopi? You should chant Hare Krishna." And they became very insulting. And the Lord realized that something had to change because they were insulting him because they didn't understand what he was doing. So he took sannyas. And he left his old mother and his young wife. And he just left and took sannyas. And of course, his mission began to flourish. So that's an example of what, if you really care about your family, then you become a devotee. Okay, who's going to take care of the family? Well, Krishna is promising to do that, right? If you become a sincere devotee. Now, it's not a reason to leave your family. Prabhupada did not leave his family. He waited till his kids were married and established, and that his wife was going to be taken care of. And then his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was appearing to him in dreams, saying that he should take sannyas. And then his godbrothers also started talking to him about taking sannyas. So he was not so enthusiastic to do it, but he finally did it. And soon after that, when he took sannyas, he was critically wounded by a bull that gouged his ribs, almost killed him. He ended up in the hospital, and then he was thinking, "Oh, maybe I made a mistake." But then he sort of firmed up his mind and said, "No, I took sannyas. I have to do this." And then his first attempts at starting the movement failed. He opened a center in Jhansi, but it just ended up in a failure. But all that time, he was still writing books and writing articles for Back to Godhead, and he suffered, or let's say, he really tried his best, and not much was happening, although he was able to at least have the first canto of Srimad Bhagvatam translated, and Bhagavad Gita translated, and with commentary. And then he just became determined. He's got to go to the United States and follow his guru's order. And the whole thing was a struggle. It was very, very difficult. And finally, when he gets free passage on a merchant boat, it's not a luxury liner, it's a merchant boat, right? With no doctor, and he has two heart attacks, almost dies, nobody to take care of him. He has to cook for himself. The whole thing was very difficult for him. And then when he arrives in the United States, he ends up going to Butler, Pennsylvania, which is an obscure town in the middle of Pennsylvania. And at least there was a family there that took care of him for 1 month, but he realized nothing was going to happen there. So he leaves and goes to New York by himself with no money. He just had enough for this bus fare. And he ends up in downtown New York, and somehow or other, he found out about this Dr. Mishra and went to talk to him. And Mishra felt sorry for him and said, okay, you can stay in the ashram, but you're not allowed to preach. And he said, okay, I'll cook for you. And then little by little, he was allowed to preach a little bit. And then he realized that he was not going to get anywhere staying in the doctor's ashram because he was a complete Mayavadi. So then, and with the few acquaintances that he built up in Mishra's ashram, he tries to open a temple. But before that, he was staying with a hippie, a drug addict, who tried to kill him. And he ran away, and fortunately, he knocked on the door of his future disciple, Mukunda Das. And I've told the story before. He and his wife were in bed, and when the doorbell rang, or when someone knocked on the door, the wife said, I'll see who it is. She goes, opens the door, and sees Prabhupada there, who had just run away from the crazy hippie who was going to kill him, tried to kill him with a knife. And because he was high on LSD. And he tells her, I don't have anywhere to go. And he says, well, you can't stay here. And she closed the door in his face. And she goes back into bed with her husband. And he said, well, who's that? He said, oh, it's that old Swamiji. He said, Swamiji? Swamiji is at the door? She said, yeah, but we don't want him in here tonight. You know, we're together, and he doesn't have anywhere to stay. We don't want him to stay here. So he got out of bed and went and opened the door, and there's Prabhupada still standing there. And he explained to him his situation. And Mukunda, who wasn't Mukunda then, he was Michael. Michael let him in, and he told his wife, get out of bed. We're going to go somewhere else and sleep. And Swamiji's going to sleep. So Prabhupada didn't sleep in the bed. He slept on the floor. Right? So look at all the trouble he went through. And it's not an easy thing. But because he was persistent, Vyavasayatmika buddhi eka kuranandana bahusakayanantascha buddhayo vyavasayanam. So that's a verse that he always referred to. And it's a very important verse because it means that one has this and should not be daunted by the ups and downs that are inevitable in the material world. The second chapter, 41st verse. Those who are not on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So Prabhupada writes that a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. What does Vyavasayatmika mean? It means resolute in following Krishna consciousness. In other words, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to get discouraged. I'm going to continue no matter what happens. Right? So that's called strong faith. Shraddha sabde vishwasakaya srida nishchai. Krishna bhakti kaila sarva karma kritahai. Faith means unflinching trust and something sublime. When one is engaged in other words, sublime means you might not see something, but you know it exists for sure. You're not wavering. When one is engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he need not act in relationship to the material world with obligations to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are the engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he need no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject to dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabhaha. A person in Krishna consciousness is the rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva, or Krishna, is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches, so by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the highest service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country, humanity, etc. If Krishna is satisfied by one's actions, then everyone will be satisfied. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practice under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student, and who can guide him to act in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasada, yasya prasadan nagatir kutopi, dayam studvamstasya yasastri sandam vande gurorshi charanarvindam. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should, therefore, meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically, but practically. When there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities, one who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. So this is a verse Prabhupada has lectured on many times. This is a verse that he meditated on. This one verse is enough to carry a person through life and go back to Godhead. So, therefore, it says, the Lord gives special protection to the family members and descendants of a devotee, even though such members are themselves non-devotees. Prahlad Maharaj was a great devotee of the Lord, but his father, Hiranyakashipu, was a great atheist and declared enemy of the Lord. But despite all this, Hiranyakashipu was awarded salvation due to his being the father of Maharaj Prahlada. The Lord is so kind that he gives all protection to the family members of his devotee, and thus the devotee has no need to bother about his family members, even if one leaves such family members aside to discharge devotional service. Maharaj Yudhisthira and his brothers were the sons of Kunti, the paternal aunt of Lord Kṛṣṇa, and Mahārāja Parīkṣit admits the patronage of Lord Kṛṣṇa because of his being the only grandson of the great Pāṇḍavas. So this is real knowledge, and this is something people can't imagine or manufacture in their fertile minds. It's beyond their comprehension. They can make movies, where there's violence and sex and all things like that, but they can't understand these subtle transcendental emotions and convictions that devotees arrive at by regularly hearing and chanting. And this is a very important point that's made by Prabhupada in the Kṛṣṇa book. And in the lecture that he gave, a really amazing lecture that he gave, I'm going to read some of that lecture today. And he says, he's lecturing on Matras Parsas Takonteya Sitosna Sukudukudaha Agamapayano Nityas Tams Tatikshasva Bharata. He says, Anityas Tams Tatikshasva Bharata, Bhagavad Gita 2:14. He says, it has been described before, Dehinosmin Yata Dehe Komaran Yovanam Jara. Bhagavad Gita 2:13. We are transmigrating from one body to another, exactly like we're passing from a child body to a boy's body to youth body. Similarly, we are passing through this body also and accepting another body. Now, the question of distress and happiness. Distress and happiness is according to the body. A very rich man is situated somewhat comfortably. The common distress of unhappiness, the common distress and happiness is common. What does that common mean? Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosana darshanam, Bhagavad Gita 13:9. To take birth either as a dog or as a king, the distress is the same. So it's talking about common distress and happiness. So even if you're destined to be a king or you're destined to be a dog, both of you end up in a very, very tight womb, in the mother's womb or in the dog's womb, right? So to take birth either as a dog or as a king, the distress is the same. There's no difference, because the dog has to keep itself within the womb of the mother in an airtight condition for so many months. And the man, either he's a king or anything, he has to also undergo that tribulation, that misery. There is no excuse, because you are taking birth in a king's family. It does not mean that to remain compact within the mother's womb, the distress is less. The distress is the same. And in another place, Prabhupada said, the dog is sleeping in the street and the man is sleeping in the big hotel in a very comfortable bed, but the perception of well-being by sleeping is the same for both. The dog's, let's say, perception of sleep and the man's perception of sleep is the same. They're both getting comfortable, even though the dog is sleeping in the street and the man is sleeping in the big bed. And the same way, the distress is the same, whether the future king is in the womb of his mother and the dog is in the womb of his mother, the distress is the same. There's no excuse. Because you are taking birth in a king's family, it does not mean that to remain compact within the mother's womb, the distress is less. And because he's taking birth in a dog's mother's womb, therefore his is greater distress than the king. No, that is the same. It's the same distress for both. Similarly, at the time of death, the distress. At the time of death, there is great distress. It is so strong that one has to leave this body. Just like when the distress becomes very strong, one commits suicide sometimes. He cannot tolerate. Let me finish this body. So nobody wants to leave this body, but the distress is so strong that one is forced to leave this body. That is called death. In the Bhagavad Gita, you will find that Mrityu Sarvaharas Chaham. Bhagavad Gita 10:34. Krishna says that I am death. And what is the meaning of death? Death means I take everything from him. Finished. I take his body. I take his business. I take his country. I take his society. I take his bank balance, and everything is finished. Sarva haras jaham. Sarva means everything. Everyone is trying to accumulate big bank balance and big house, big family, big motor car. But with the death, everything is finished. So that is great distress. Sometimes one cries. You will find that at the time of death, in a coma, his eye drops are coming out. He is thinking, I made so many things so nicely to live comfortably, and now I am losing everything. Great distress. I know one friend in Allahabad. He was a very rich man. So he was only 54 years old. So he was requesting, crying, "Doctor, doctor, can you please give me at least 4 years more to live? I have a plan. I want to finish it." But what can a doctor do? That is not possible, sir. You must leave. You must leave your body. But these foolish people, they do not know. But we have to tolerate. We have to tolerate. That is advised here. Matra sparsas tu konteya. Because you have got this material body, you have to tolerate. To live within the womb of the mother and then come out. Then I cannot speak. Suppose I'm a little baby and some worm is biting me or some bug is biting me. I cannot say mother because at that time I cannot speak yet. I'm still too young. Something is biting on my back. I am crying. And mother is thinking, the child is hungry. Let me give him some milk. Just see how much this suffering is going on. I need this to get rid of that bug that's biting me, and I'm being given something else. That is a fact. Why is the child crying? He is feeling uncomfortable. Then in this way, I grow. Then I do not want to go to school. I am forced to go to school. Yes, at least I was like that. I never wanted to go to school. And my father was very kind. He said, "So, all right, why you are not going to school?" I would say, "I will go tomorrow." "All right," my father would say. But my mother was very, very careful. Perhaps if my mother would not have been so strict, I would not have gotten any education. My father was very lenient. So she used to force me. One man would take me to school. Actually, children do not want to go to school. They want to play. Against the will of the children, he has to go to school. Then there is examination. Not only going to school, but there's also examination. So you study the life from the beginning, the body of this body within the womb of the mother. It is simply troublesome. Against my will, so many distresses are there. So many distresses are there. Then you grow, the distress grows. As you grow, there's more distress. Distress is not diminished. Then janma, then old age, then disease. So long you have got this body, the so-called scientists, they are manufacturing very effective medicine, discovery, new discovery. What is it called? Streptomycin? Devotee. No, Prabhupada, it's streptomycin. So many things. Prabhupada says so many things. But they cannot stop disease. That is not possible, sir. You can manufacture so many high-class medicine to cure disease that will not cure. Temporary relief. But no scientist has discovered a medicine that you take this medicine and no more disease. That's not possible. You take this medicine, no more death. That is not possible. Therefore, those who are intelligent, they know it very well, that this place is Dukhalayam Asasvatam, Bhagavad Gita 8:15. It's a place of misery. That is described in Bhagavad Gita. It is a place for distress, so long you remain here. But we are so full, we cannot realize it. We accept, this life is very pleasant. Let me enjoy it. It is not pleasant at all. There's seasonal changes always. This distress or that distress, this disease or that disease, this feeling of being uncomfortable or this anxiety. There are three kinds of distresses: adhyatmika, adhibodhika, adhidaivika. Adhyatmika means distresses pertaining to the body and the mind, and adhidaivika means distresses offered by material nature. All of a sudden, there is earthquake. All of a sudden, there's famine. There is scarcity of food. There is too much rain or no rain, extreme heat or extreme winter, extreme cold. We have to go under these distresses, threefold. At least 1, 2 must be there. Still, we do not realize that the place is full of distress because I have got this material body. Therefore, a sane man's duty is how to stop the process of accepting this material body. This is intelligence. We should realize that I am always in distresses, and I am not this body. but I am put into this body. Therefore, the right conclusion is that I am not this body. If somehow or other I can live without this body, then my distresses are over. This is common sense. That is possible. Therefore, Krishna comes. Therefore, God comes to give you the information that you are not this body. You are the soul, spirit soul. And because you are within this body, you are suffering so many distresses. Therefore, Krishna advises that these distresses are due to this body. Try to understand why you are feeling pains and pleasures. Pains and pleasures. Pains and pleasure. It is due to the body. Therefore, Buddha philosophy is also the same thing, that you finish this body. Nirvana. Nirvana. Nirvana means their philosophy is that your feeling of pains and pleasure, it is due to this body. They also accept. Now, what is this body? This body is combination of matter, combination of earth, water, air, fire, ether, intelligence, and ego. 8 material elements, 5 gross and 3 subtle. This body is made of that. So the Buddha philosophy is that you dismantle this body, nirvana. Just like this house is made of stone, brick, and wood, and so many other things. So you break it, and there's no more stone and no more brick. This is disturbed. This is distributed to the earth. Throw these things on the earth, then there's no house. Similarly, if you become zero, no body, then you are free from pains and pleasure. This is their Buddhist philosophy, Nirvana philosophy, Sunyavadi philosophy. Make it all zero. But that's not possible. That is not possible. Because you are spirit soul. That will be explained. You are eternal. You cannot be zero. That will be explained. Nahanyate hanyamane saride, Bhagavad Gita 2:20. That we are giving up this body, but immediately I have to accept another body. Immediately. Then where is your question of dismantling? By nature's way, you will get another body. It's a law of nature. Because you want to enjoy, you have come here in this material world. There's no question of asking. Everyone knows that I am in this material world. I must enjoy to the fullest extent. One who is unaware of the fact that I am going to take another life, he is thinking, this is a combination of this matter, earth, water, air, fire. So when it will be broken, then everything will be finished. So long I have got this opportunity. Let me enjoy to the fullest extent. This is called material mentality. Atheist, who does not know that we are eternal soul. We are changing body only. The atheists think that after finishing this body, there's nothing. Here in the Western country, big professors, they're also under the same impression that when the body is finished, everything is finished. No, that is not true. Therefore, that is the beginning of instruction. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaran yovanam jara. Bhagavad Gita 2:13. You are changing different bodies. By finishing the body, you are not finished. You are not finished. We can understand with little thinking that in this body, even in this life, at night I get another body, a dream. There is tiger. I go to the forest and there is tiger and it is coming to kill me. Then I am crying, tiger, and actually I am crying. Or in other ways, I have gone to some beloved man or woman. We are embracing. But the bodily action is going on. Otherwise, why I am crying and why there is discharge of semina. So people do not know that I am leaving this gross body, but I am entering the subtle body. Subtle body is there. Not question of inside. We are packed up. Just like this body is packed up with shirt and coat. So coat is the gross body and shirt is the subtle body. So when this gross body is resting, the subtle body is working. The subtle body is there. The foolish men, they cannot understand that I am compact in some body, either subtle or gross body. One who is too sinful, very much sinful, he does not get the gross body. He remains in the subtle body. He remains in the subtle body. So that's a ghost. He has as we discussed yesterday, has infinite number of material desires and no gross body to satisfy him. And that is called ghost. You have heard, some of you might have seen, there is ghost. Ghost means he doesn't get a gross body. He only has a subtle body. He's so sinful that he is condemned to remain in the subtle body. He does not get the gross body. Therefore, according to Vedic system, there is Shraddha ceremony. If the father or relative has gotten the gross body, by that ceremony he is allowed to accept. If the father or relative has not gotten the gross body, by that ceremony, the Shraddha ceremony, he is allowed to accept a gross body. That is the Vedic system. So you see, today, most people are not doing the Shraddha ceremony anymore. And actually, they're condemning their ancestor or their loved ones. If their loved one gets a ghost body, they're going to stay a ghost. But the one main purpose of the Shraddha ceremony, to be performed 11 or 13 days after the death, is to communicate with the dead soul and offer Krishna prasadam. And if you do it sincerely, they actually get the prasadam. And if they took a ghost body or a ghost existence, they are given a gross body and not trapped like that in a dead-end place where they're just going to be suffering with all kinds of material desires and no way to satisfy them. So anyway, we can understand that I am sometimes in this gross body and I am sometimes in the subtle body. So I am there either in the gross body or in the subtle body. So I am eternal, but when I work with the subtle body, I forget this gross body, and when I work with this gross body, I forget this subtle body. So either I accept the gross body or the subtle body, but I am eternal. I am eternal. Now the problem is how to avoid this gross body and subtle body. That is the problem. That means when you remain in your original body, it means spiritual body, and do not come to this gross or subtle body, that is your eternal life. And this is what we should try to achieve. The human life is a gift by the nature or by God. Now you realize that you are changing your different condition, distress and happiness. You're being forced to accept some kind of gross and subtle body. That is the cause of your pains and pleasures. So that's the law of nature, that you're going to experience distress and happiness, and you're forced to accept either a gross or subtle body or both. That is the cause, and that's the cause of pains and pleasures. If you get out of this gross and subtle body and remain in your original spiritual body, then you're free from these pains and pleasures. That is called mukti. Mukti, there's a Sanskrit word. Mukti means liberation, equals no more gross body, no more subtle body, but you remain in your own original spiritual body. This is called mukti. Anyata rupam. Anyata rupam means staying or living in the spiritual body. Otherwise means that I am spirit soul. I have got spiritual body. But some way or other, circumstantially, on account of my desire, I get sometimes human body and sometimes dog body, and sometimes cat's body, sometimes tree's body, and sometimes demigod's body. There are different bodies, 8,400,000 different forms of bodies. So I am changing according to my desire and according to my infection or contamination by sins. Purusha prakritisto hi mukte prakritijan gunam karanam guru sangasya sadasad yoni janmasu. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. So these things are subtle things. That is the real knowledge of human being. Not to invent something for temporary happiness. That is foolishness. That is foolishness. Wasting time. if we invent something for the comforts of this present body, and I shall live very comfortably, but you will not be allowed to, sir, to live comfortably. First of all, you know it. Suppose a man is constructing a very nice house, very strong house. It will never fall down in any circumstances. But that's all right. But what you have done for yourself, that you will never die, so that you will enjoy this house. No, let it be. Let me have a very strong built house. So house remains, you go there, strong built house, just like Napoleon constructed a strong built arches, and the other day I mentioned that Napoleon built Les Invalides, which was a fantastic hospital for all injured soldiers in his conquests. You know, he basically conquested all of Europe, and even parts of Russia. And so he built this great hospital. And the hospital is still there. It's a fantastic building. And when we were on a morning walk with Prabhupada in Place de la Concorde, we went to see the Musée de l'Homme, the Museum of Humanity. And then from there, it's like on a hill, and you look across this big stretch of big place called Concord Place, and there's the obelisk, this big monumental towering thing that was stolen from Egypt, and then after that, in the distance, you see Les Invalides, this amazing hospital that Napoleon built. And Prabhupada said, "What is that?" And we said, "It's Les Invalides, Prabhupada. It's a military hospital that Napoleon built." He said, "Oh." He said, "Very, very sturdy building." He said, "Building is still there, but where is Napoleon?" So here he's saying that Napoleon constructed strong-built arches, but where he has gone, nobody knows. So therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, "Jada Vidya Jato Mayara Vaibhava Tumara Bhajane Bada." The more we advance in so-called material happiness or material advancement, the more we forget our real identity. This is the result. Rasovaya sa rasam hi evayam labdhavanandi bhavati. When one understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently blissful. It's the Taittiriya Upanishad. But on the opposite, the more one advances in so-called material happiness or material advancement, the more we forget Krishna and the more we forget who we actually are. So we should understand that we have got a separate business, real business, that is called self-realization. I am not this body. This is self-realization. That is being instructed by Krishna in the beginning, that you are not this body. The first understanding, first knowledge, is to understand that I am not this body. I am spirit soul. I have got a different business. It is not this temporary actions or activities like a dog, or as a human being, or as a tiger, or as a tree, or as a fish. There are activities, yeah. Ahara nidra bhaya maitunam cha. And this is a quote from the Hitopadesh. The same principle of bodily necessities, eating, sleeping, sex life, and defense. But in the human form of life, I have got a separate business. It's called self-realization, to get out of this bodily entanglement, and that is called knowledge. Without this knowledge, anything we are advancing in so-called knowledge, that is foolishness. That's all. Shama eva hi kevalam, Srimad Bhagvatam 1.2.8. Shama eva hi kevalam, Shama eva hi kevalam, Dharma swanustitak pumsa visvaksina katasayad, Napadayad yadiratim, Shama eva hi kevalam. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.8. means simply working uselessly and wasting time. You cannot check nature's law. Suppose in this life you are a very big leader, prime minister. That's all right, but according to your mentality, you are creating next life. So in this life, you remain a prime minister, and next life, you become a dog. Then where is the benefit? Therefore, these atheist fools, they want to deny next life. That is very horrible for them. That is very horrible to them. If they accept next life, they know their life is very sinful. Then what life they are going to get by the laws of nature? When they think of it, they shudder. Better deny it. Better deny it. Just like a rabbit. Enemy is coming to catch the rabbit, and he's going to die, but he thinks, let me close my eyes, then I will be out of danger. This is atheistic view, that they are trying to forget that there is an eternal soul. Therefore, they deny it. There is no life. Why not? Krishna says that you had a childhood body, you had a baby body, now you have an adult body. And then you're going to die. Where is that body? You have left that. You are in a different body now. Similarly, this body, you'll change. You will get another body. And Krishna says, the most superior authority, he says, I may not understand, but when he says, this is the process of our knowledge. In other words, you might not understand the changing body. You might not understand that after you die, you get another body, but that's the law of nature, and that's what's actually happening. That is called, okay, we're almost finished. Therefore, we must accept knowledge from a perfect person. I may be a fool, but the knowledge received from the perfect person is perfect. This is our process. We don't try to speculate. That may or may not be successful, but if you accept knowledge from the perfect authority, that knowledge is perfect, just like we are speculating. Who is my father? You cannot speculate who is your father, but that speculation will not help you. You will never understand who is your father, but you go to your mother, the supreme authority, she'll immediately say, here is your father. That's all. And you cannot know Father in any other way. There is no other way. This is practical. You cannot know your Father without the authoritative statement of your mother. Similarly, things which are beyond your perception, avan manasa gochara, you cannot think of, you cannot speak of. Sometimes they say God cannot be spoken, God cannot be thought of. That is all right, but if God himself comes before you and says, here I am, then where is the difficulty? Where is the difficulty? I am imperfect, I cannot know, that's all right, but if God himself comes before me. So this Krishna consciousness movement is to know everything perfectly from the supreme authority, Lord Kṛṣṇa. This is the process. Tadvijnanartam sagurum ivabhigachat. Mundaka Upanishad 1:2-12. In order to understand this subject matter, which is beyond our perception, you have to approach such an authority who can inform you exactly in the same way. To understand who is my father is beyond my perception, beyond my speculation. But if I accept the authoritative statement of my mother, this is perfect knowledge. So in the prayers to the personified Vedas, Prabhupada explains what this statement is, avan manasa gochara. He says, how God is unlimited in his expansion of energies and activities can be roughly calculated by any sane and sober living entity. It is said in the Vedic literature that innumerable universes issue forth when Mahavishnu exhales in his yoga nidra, and that's his yoga sleep, and that innumerable universes enter his body when he inhales. So when he exhales, every molecule of his exhalation is an entire universe, like we're living in one complete universe. But there's millions and billions of universes that emanate from the body of Mahavishnu. And when he inhales, they all get reabsorbed into his body, and all the living entities and everything in every one of those universes. We have to imagine that these universes, which according to our limited knowledge are expanded unlimitedly, are so great that the gross and subtle ingredients, the 5 elements of the cosmic manifestation, namely earth, water, fire, air, and sky, along with the total material energy and false ego, are not only within the universe, but cover the universe in 7 layers, each layer 10 times bigger than the previous layer. So this whole universe is covered by 7 layers, and each layer is 10 times bigger than the other layer. So it's earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, and intelligence are covering the whole universe. Imagine, even if you go to the end of the universe, you would never be able to get out. First of all, you can't even go to the end of the universe. But when you reach it, there's another 7 layers that you would have to go through to come to the causal ocean. So it's impossible. In this way, each and every universe is very securely packed, and there are numberless universes. All these universes float within the innumerable pores of the transcendental body of Mahavishnu. It is stated that just as the atoms and particles of dust are floating within the air along with the birds and other number, and their number cannot be calculated, so innumerable universes are floating within the pores of the transcendental body of the Lord. For this reason, the Vedas say that God is beyond the grasp of our knowledge. Avan manasa gochara. To understand the length and breadth of God is beyond the jurisdiction of our mental speculation. Therefore, a person who is actually learned and sane does not claim to be God, but tries to understand God, making distinctions between spirit and matter. By such careful discrimination, one can clearly understand that the Supreme Soul is transcendental to both the superior and inferior energies, although he has a direct connection with both. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Kṛṣṇa explains that although everything is resting on his energy, he is different or separate from the energy. So we see how ludicrous and inane it is for someone to claim that they're God. They have no understanding of the length and breadth and the inconceivable energies and just the monumental scope of Krishna's reach. They have no idea. And when they hear all this, they say, oh no, this is all fairy tales, it's not possible. No. Has anyone ever wrote a fairy tale like this? Because it's beyond their imagination. Yeah, you have Alice in Wonderland, and those are fairy tales, but that doesn't even come close to the length and breadth of this description that we just read of Mahavishnu, you see. So, when there's something that's inconceivable to us, we shouldn't try to speculate. But here we have Bhagavad Gita. Krishna comes personally and explains everything in this one book called Bhagavad Gita. And if we just stick to this one book and understand it in the rest of our life, then we'll attain perfection. We will not, at the moment of death, we will not get another gross or subtle body. We'll go back to Godhead in our original body. That means we have a spiritual body. Right now, this gross body is covering our spiritual body. But our spiritual body is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. But when we become free of all this false identifications, then it expands to its natural size. So we need to hear this. There's a lot more to this lecture that Prabhupada gave, but you get the idea that the material knowledge, the advancement of material knowledge, means going backwards and not understanding anything about Krishna. And we waste our time with that, studying so many different things, so many different books. You have to read this book, that book. You look at the K-12 curriculum, you know, the kids are reading all types of books, and they're all nonsense. They're all full of speculation. They're all full of imagination. Nothing real. And what does it do? It takes them away from striving for self-realization. and they become entangled in all kinds of things for the rest of their life, right? And it's a hopeless type of entanglement. So therefore, the only way that people can actually attain a happy and peaceful life is by developing Krishna consciousness. But that peacefulness is due to a very advanced stage of toleration. We'll discuss that tomorrow. Are there any questions?
So you were just mentioning that the soul is 1/10,000 the tip of the hair. But then when
whether it's an elephant or an ant.
But then you said that when we realize our spiritual dimension, then
when we become self-realized, our relationship with Krishna.
Okay, but then the Lord says that the soul cannot be mutated or changed and so on. So how do we understand that it's small, but it's infinite?
Your soul is 1/10,000 the tip of a hair, but it's covered by a body right now. That's much bigger than 1/10,000 the tip of a hair. So the soul can expand and retract. It's not something that is limited in the material sense. Right? Like your body right now is limited. My body is limited. Right? The soul is not like that. So some people, like Putana, they had a body that's 12 miles long, right? But Krishna had a little body, right? But he was able to defeat Putana. So there are many things we don't understand, but it takes time to gradually hear about it, and then we can get a better understanding. There are many subtle things going on in this world we don't understand. You don't understand how you're digesting food, right? You don't understand why your heart is beating even when you're sleeping. You're not consciously in control of any of that stuff, but yet it's happening. So there are many things that we have to learn about spiritual life that it's impossible to imagine. Therefore, we should just hear. Little by little, we begin to understand the importance of the human body. It's meant for self-realization. It's not meant to be spending our time on useless behavior, useless activities. But it takes time to understand this because we've been conditioned so much. So it's a gradual process. You cannot drop everything at once and say, now I'm just going to chant Hare Krishna. It's a gradual process. But we're beginning to understand more about the difference between the soul and the body. That's the beginning of spiritual life right there. The atheists, they're just rejecting the existence of an eternal body. They reject the existence of the spiritual world. They just say, when you're dead, that's it. There's nothing after that. So that's like the rabbit that closes its eyes when the predator is coming. It's thinking that, well, I'll close my eyes now, there's no more predator. No. That's just an illusion. So this is what they're teaching in school. When you die, that's it. It's finished. You don't have any responsibility. Therefore, try and squeeze out as much sense gratification as you can right now. But as you're trying to squeeze out the sense gratification, you get more and more entangled. And more your time is wasted, trying to make money, trying to protect this thing, trying to protect that thing. If you look, you have to have car insurance, you have to have life insurance, you have to have house insurance, you have to have computer insurance, you have to have cell phone insurance, you have to have this contract, maintenance contract, that maintenance contract, this thing, that. Oh, wow, look at all the things you have to pay for. And on top of that, you have to pay taxes. Right? Yeah. So how are you gonna get out of all that entanglement? And you're worried all the time, right? I have to pay this, I have to pay that, there's another bill that's coming. And you're just entangled. And then as someone's getting sick and someone is dying, all of a sudden, how did that happen? Right? So, when they die, someone that you love very much dies, it's bewildering. Right? And you did everything to save that person, it didn't work. The doctor promised you everything's going to be all right. This is the new medicine we have, and we'll get this specialist, he'll do this operation, and everything will be all right. But they still die. Right? Maybe they can save you once or twice, but then you're destined to die. So you see, all this stuff is bewildering. But then people just try and put it aside. Well, that person died, but I'm still alive, so I'm okay. Right? Nobody's okay. Right?
That is the most amazing thing, is that we see people leaving the body right in front of us, but then we just don't think it's our time.
It's not our time.
It's not our time.
Yeah, I still got another 40, 50 years, I'm all right. No, you don't know that for sure. Nobody knows. I see, that's because we're entangled with all these activities that we're forced to do. And because of all that force, there's no time for self-realization, there's no time for Krishna consciousness. So we have to consciously work and make that time. Otherwise, we just get more entangled. And then later on you say, oh, geez, I should have done this. Why didn't I do it? It's too late now. I'm too sick. I'm dying. And then you're begging the doctor, give me another 4 years. I didn't write my biography. I have to write my biography. Nobody's going to read the biography anyway. I will. Thank you.
Maharaj, one more question. So you said that the soul leaves the gross body and goes into the subtle body if you are doing a lot of sinful activities, right? That's what the lecture said.
You would get a subtle body without a gross body.
Without a gross body. So
But you have gross material desires, so it makes you go crazy.
yeah. So if
Just
you,
like, let's say right now, you have a terrible accident and you become like a vegetable, right? So, but your mind is still functioning, right? So then it would be terrible. You'd say, before I could walk around, before I could go on a vacation, before I could do something, I can't do anything now. I can't even move. I want to move. So it would cause great distress, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Now imagine you have all these material desires, but you die, and now you have a subtle body, and there's no possibility of satisfying any of those desires because you need a gross body to do it. Imagine how much suffering that is.
So the soul will still be there, but in the subtle body.
Yes,
Okay.
that's a
And-
ghost. That's
that's
why
a
you
ghost.
can't see the ghost,
Okay.
but
And
it's there.
And the Sharad ceremony basically will help to release that soul.
If the relative dies and gets a ghost body, that's what he said. Then by the Shraddha ceremony, that person at least will get a gross body again.
Okay. Move away from
Yeah.
the subtle body into a gross body.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But you see, nowadays nobody wants to do the Shraddha ceremony, unless the parents say you have to do it. It's our tradition.
Correct.
But people are
Just forget, yeah.
they're forgetting it.
yeah.
All these things were normal before. Now it's they say, well, why are we going to do that?
It's inconvenient.
Yeah.
That's what-
Because of modern education. They say, what's the use of this? What is the guy's dead? It's all done. There's no such thing as a soul. You see how people, the danger of this type of education.
yeah. Thank you.
Devotees don't have to do. Well, if your parent dies, you should do at least once the Shraddha ceremony, right? But after that, the fact that you're offering your food every day, and you can have your altar and you offer the food to Krishna, and afterwards you have a little separate place for your parents and your ancestors. You can offer it to them every day. That's basically the Shraddha ceremony is what? You're offering Mahaprasadam to your ancestors. But the fact that you're eating the prasadam, see, normally, I used to think that, whatever you offer to the picture of your dead father or mother, you take it outside and leave it, and the animals will come and eat it. But actually, you're supposed to give it to a genuine devotee. And if they accept it and eat it, then your ancestor is benefited. I didn't realize that, but now I'm reading more carefully, and it says that's the way it's done. But the fact that devotee every day is offering the food to Krishna and then receiving it back. So I'm going to read the rest of this tomorrow. All these things are explained in this one lecture. It's an amazing lecture. And he's talking about second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He's taking verses right from the second chapter and expanding it. It's amazing. And this is an early lecture. Let's see when he gave this lecture. It doesn't say. I have to look up. Anyway, we'll continue. Huh? 74? Yeah. Wow. Yeah, this phrase, though, this avan manasagocha, to understand the length and breadth of God is beyond the jurisdiction of our mental speculation. Therefore, a person who is actually learned and sane does not claim to be God, but tries to understand God. Now look at all these rascals that claim that they're God. You see how vicious they are. Well, what are we doing every day? We're trying to understand God.